The age of the traditional woman is over, and most men are chasing ghosts instead. Put this into perspective. It's currently the year of 2025, meaning that a woman who is 25 years old on the dating market was born in the great year of 2000. Tough math there, but it should be clear if it wasn't already that there are no traditional women left, only remnants and actors. It seems like the average chick nowadays can hop on a stripper pole and do a couple tricks, or shake her ass in 5 different ways, but can't cook a damn pot of rice. So that kind of gives you an idea of where things are going. So as I move forward, I'm going to cover something I call the deep problem. D.E.E.P. D for don't like men, E for egotistical and egocentric, E for entitled and lack of empathy, P for pretentious. These are 4 of the key natures to understand, along with a few other trinkets that I'll cover. Feel free to jump around. Anyways, let's dive into the details. For starters, traditionalism nowadays is a romanticized aesthetic, a selling point, an esoteric desire, something that means a bunch of things but also nothing at the same time. Traditionalism, when used by most modern women in the context of dating, pretty much means whatever requires a man to carry a bigger burden and whatever allows me to operate with little to no expectations despite claiming to desire equality and egalitarianism. And not only that, I never understood where this idea came from where women born in the 21st century, or at least near it, have this grand expertise on relationship dynamics from the 1950s. It seems like they only know the ones that they stand to gain from. So when you transfer it to the present day, it becomes a real man does whatever she wants and a real woman does whatever she wants too. So let's describe what a modern woman really is. For starters, the modern woman is molded by things in pop culture like, I don't cook or clean, but I'ma get this ring. I don't need no man. I'm an independent woman, but I'm traditional in certain ways. Oh, in what ways? The part where men work hard to provide for me. Things like that. And before I go any further, let me get this out the way. When talking about these things, I'm going to make some very necessary generalizations. I don't want to get into exceptions or semantics. I want to get into what comes natural for them because oftentimes folks tend to have a hard time conceptualizing this topic. To give a simple idea, women are not the same in all capacities. You know what I'm saying? Dudes often think because a chick is at church on Sunday, that's the same chick on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so forth. They'll know a woman who's a mutual or an associate in a more platonic fashion, or a family member or a coworker, or even just someone on social media. But you don't know her as a dating companion or a girlfriend or a wife. You can't assume that a woman is the same within an intimate relationship as she is outside of it, or think that she's like that 24/7 based off of very few interactions. Just because a woman seems great from afar doesn't mean you understand her in the context of dating and relationships. We all know there are exceptional women somewhere out there. That goes without saying, but it also depends on the context and the capacity. So with that being said, let's get to the harsh truth real quick. And one of the harsh truths is modern women don't really like men like that. It's not that they dislike you in particular. It's more that they dislike the concept of men in general. We don't need men. Men are pigs. Stop approaching us. The patriarchy, male figures, men are useless. And yes, some will even shout from the rooftops verbatim, we hate men. So yeah, a lot of them legitimately see men as adversaries in a sense. And just from my own observation, it seems as though the goal for many modern women is to be bad bitch, boss babe, city girls with their friends, and then they utilize men as necessary for what they desire. Then they get to sip wine at the end of the day with the homegirls, the Sex and the City vision, if you will. And that's the thing. The I don't need a man and we hate men mentality has logistical and logical limits to a certain degree. How is she going to have a baby? How is she going to get her wedding? How is she going to get princess treatment or be spoiled? How is she going to get people to sign up for her OF account? How is she going to get someone to finance certain things? Where is the attention going to come from? That's where utilizing men as necessary comes in, amongst other things. If she wants to get help and save on bills, find a man. She wants a baby, get a boyfriend, or a sperm donor, or a hookup. Princess treatment, find a man who will worship the ground she walks on. Same applies for the wedding. Want to have fun and just start collecting experiences and things in general? Just start dating for sport, like they always do now. Intimacy, Get a man just for pleasurable purposes and keep it on the low. A lot of them are very skilled in these departments, and once you see it, it's hard to unsee it. And something I didn't mention was that modern women have already started to kind of separate from men in a way, right? They're throwing Galentine's Day, ladies' brunches, ladies' luncheons, women's retreats, women's empowerment events. They're doing their own thing, and that's cool. While men are sitting around telling them you'll be single and lonely, like, dog, they don't care. It's all part of their agenda, the female-centric utopia. Modern gender dynamics are slowly reaching a boiling point, it seems like. In fact, I say, with the way things are going, women are starting to adapt to being single better than men have, at least on average. I think a lot of men are still trying to reel women in and try to get them to see the light, but they ain't finna go for that. Women are having it great right now because they can get everything a man could provide in a relationship from multiple men and have their way either way. Remember when I said in the past, men want one thing, women want everything. She can throw your ass out and get dudes for dates, giving money, sexual pleasure, validation, reassurance, conversation, all those things. They even have social media and Instagram and TikTok and all that. Like, bro, go on TikTok at any time of the day, especially at night, and you can legit see women on live, just like talking, looking at the camera. And there's literally hundreds of dudes just sitting there calling them gorgeous, donating money, sending money, signing up for exclusive content. The dynamics are almost entirely skewed in their favor when they're single, and there's a plethora of options for what they can choose from as they approach it from their dating lives. And then when we really start talking about the ones who put themselves out there, they can literally wake up today and say, I'm going to be a whore for the next 6 months. And then 6 months from now, they're going to get up and say, I want to get baptized, right? They can try out a handful of lifestyles and men and then look for a good man afterwards. Many of them will even say getting a man is the easiest thing. And well, it's true for the most part. They can run the ticker for as long as possible because at worst, they can just find a dude who they aren't attracted to and try to whip him into shape if it comes to that. And sure, there's going to be many who end up staying single down the line, but that's not so bad, right? They can still have a kid or a few. They can get their living spaces by themselves. They can have their careers, but they will mostly separate from men domestically. And hell, as it is, I've always said if women can reproduce independently, a lot of dudes would be out of luck. At least half of all men probably would get no play whatsoever, besides financing dates for random women. One of the reasons relationships are such a struggle for modern women and why it seems to rub them the wrong way is because a lot of them have this obsession with emulating what could be perceived as the worst traits in men. Think like a man, take up space, cheat first, hoe phase, be a player, ruthlessness, right? Throw in being combative and hypocritical about gender roles. There's just this constant confusion. The modern woman blends the most convenient combination of masculinity and femininity when it benefits her. In the snap of a moment, they can go from hyper independent and strong to ain't that a man's job? I'm just a girl. I don't want to think when I'm around a man, right? It's halfway in, halfway out. This is why being equal with a man doesn't really mix well for them. More on that later. Now, there are 3 or really 4 key natures I want to touch on really quickly. The first one is the egotistical nature. Everything about the essence of a modern woman makes sense when you start with the premise of she is selfish. When you start with almost anything else, the way they operate will confuse you. Why would they do that? Why do they think that? Look, I like to apply Occam's razor. Break that shit down to the most simple explanation. Doesn't she love me for me? She said she'd never do that. She said she didn't care about money. See, men often believe women are these super complex, impossible to understand creatures. But again, if you just assume that she's selfish, everything makes sense. It's more of a self-preservation thing. She's going to save her ass before yours. Some women will turn into someone you've never seen before when it really gets to the bottom of it. And that's why personally, I love hearing a woman talk. I love the sound of their voice, especially with the right sweetness and tone, but I don't believe a damn word they say. A chick will look you dead in your eye, blushing, smiling, giggling, crying, whatever, and then just start lying. They just start opening their mouth and lying on instinct, babbling, things of that nature. It don't really matter to me because I learned to stop listening half the time anyway, but there are a lot of men who make this mistake of taking a woman's word at face value. And look, as I've said in other videos, honest women will tell you this themselves. A lot of women are selfish and they will manipulate situations and people to get what they want. And oftentimes that includes other women too, because at the bottom line, The situation has to serve them to make sense. Following up on egotistical, let's get into egocentrism, meaning that a woman believes the world revolves around her. I guess you could call it a lack of empathy or what about me syndrome. Nothing in the world matters to a woman more than her feelings, not the truth, not reality, not her own actions. The world is like an oyster for her feelings to justify everything. This is why accountability is such a hard thing for them to do. Well, the biggest issues is how sociology and psychology industries have almost been co-opted by feminism and feminine language. It's given individual women a certain level of infallibility. It's led to her feelings are valid no matter what. Just let her win. She's not asking for that much. Just do it. So a lot of women get into these relationships and friendships and just constantly start psychoanalyzing and pathologizing, chat GPTing, WebMDing, and just running relationships like it's an HR office. They believe there's some grand scheme where they themselves are the standard bearers for everyone around them. Don't let them run all over you. Okay, now you're narcissistic. Now you're gaslighting, controlling, domineering, emotionally unintelligent. I swear, I find it hard to believe you've dated any women nowadays if you haven't been caused some type of ism by them by the end. It's to the point of being neurotic sometimes. Dating them means you're in a constant state of wondering, am I doing too much or too little? They can even take the most negative or ridiculous concepts and make them sound virtuous. Some examples are like dressing less and going out more equals I want to feel confident. Being in a relationship but flirting with other men means I just want to feel wanted. Whole phases equals finding herself. Let's go on a break equals there's another man I want to give my time to. I cheated equals I had to learn a lesson. A man will do anything if he loves you equals do what I say or else. I've said it before, most men are not prepared or equipped for how manipulative a woman can be because they don't think they're capable of it. Going back to the sociology thing, it just seems like words barely have meanings and are simply tied to the feeling it gives an individual woman. And social media feeds into this heavily because it makes them believe they're doing the right thing no matter what, all the time. As long as the girlies on TikTok told her, it's true. And man, they've gotten really good at this stuff. They're so good at manipulating that you damn near gotta have an encyclopedia to filter through everything. But at the base level, their mentality is, I'm the center of everything. A man could be miserable, work to death, nag, leaking money, who cares? If he's not paying attention to me, then there's a problem. He should be doing things for me because it's to his benefit that he's doing things for me, because it's me. If a man is having problems, he's feeling depressed, struggling with himself, who cares? How does this affect me? A lot of them simply center themselves no matter what. Some women will even try to create competition anxiety against you, right? They'll tell you stories about other men or XYZ did this for this girl. She saw a girl post something on social media. This guy pays all the bills. This guy works 3 jobs and never complains. Are you sure that's true? Right? Maybe he does. You just don't know about it. But anyways, that's just what they do when they center themselves all the time. Now, let's move over to the nature of entitlement. The definition of entitled is believing oneself to be inherently deserving of privileges or special treatment. This is the culture. Even when they're wrong, they're still right. I should get things because I'm me. The universe will give me what I want eventually. I don't care if it's ridiculous. I'm going to manifest this. And really attractive women have this the worst. It's almost like they think men exist as NPCs and are supposed to be excited to pay their way and feed them and give them things and show them a good time to send them home energized so they can be nice and ready for some other dude. Her car breaks down, just stand there until the male NPC comes to fix it. She feels ugly, wait for a male NPC to ask her out so she can reject him. It's all entitlement, and it comes in very funny ways. Don't even get me started on them taking credit for everything. Women nowadays are often independent until it's time to get something from a man. And then it becomes, I deserve it just because. Like, if there's one thing a woman will do, it's finding some type of way to attach themselves to something you created or worked hard for. You start a business while she's with you, well, she supported you or gave you ideas. So in her mind, she deserves at least half of something too. I helped him think of a name. I was there when he thought of it. I supported him while he built it. Therefore, I deserve half. I mean, this is how divorces work, so I guess. And it's especially relevant because women play both sides nowadays. Like I always say, when it's something she earned, it's hers. You can't touch it unless she gives it to you. But anything you make is hers too. Not only are you obligated to share, spend, and use it on her, but if she leaves, she wants to leave with something for her time. First they're independent, and then they're not. I'm telling you, let a woman do anything for you, and you're going to hear about it later. It'll be overstated, and she will never let you forget about it. These chicks will buy you one pair of shoes and then act like they overhauled your whole wardrobe. I put gas in this car, but it was somewhere that she wanted to go. Like, I feel like I'm getting off track here, but the basic idea is most of these women believe their role is to ask and take, and sometimes it ain't even that. They think they're supposed to get, no questions asked, while also maintaining that they don't owe anyone anything. Okay, so we talked about egotistical, egocentric, and the entitled. But let's get into the pretentious. Pretentious means having the mindset that you're better, more important, or more valuable than you actually are. Or as many like to call it, including myself, being delusional. Something that's become very apparent to me in the past decade or so is that the average woman thinks she's better than the average man. It's the attitudes, the condescendingness. They want someone better than themselves, quote unquote, to give them everything they want, to prioritize them, accept all their problems, love them with no strings attached, have no expectations, spend on them frivolously, participate in emotional babble, and have tons of other female options himself, but still pick her and be loyal for some reason. Every single woman thinks she deserves better. And this is why there's always this talk about them dating down or dating across or dating up. But what does better even mean? Is it better treatment, better man, better situation, better location, better than the last guy, better lifestyle? Better in what way? No one knows, not even them. But the safest bet is all of the above. I have my theories on why they're like this, and one of them is everyday men tend to denigrate themselves and put themselves out there and start groveling to get basic women, and they pedestalize them. Like, look, there's a very thin line between being courteous to a woman and then pedestalizing her. Every woman thinks she's special now, and men play a big part in this. Dudes will blow smoke up a chick's ass to get in her good graces, thinking he'll be rewarded, but all it does is blow up her ego instead. And men, especially when they lack experience with women or struggle to get them, will call the most normal, common acting woman special. And don't let him get the girl. Don't let her give him a chance. He'll think the relationship is like no other, hyping up the most basic, ordinary stuff. Dudes be like, oh, she's nice sometimes, fusses and fights, makes up then breaks up, has mood swings and the works. She's the greatest woman in the world. That's normal, dude. Straight up dime a dozen. One-nighters can be a bitch though, I tell you. Come to think of it, when have you ever heard a woman call a man special? Whether it's a boyfriend or husband, because I don't know if I've ever heard that. But as I've talked about before, I think most of it could be attributed to the fact that women have more intergender experiences than men do, typically, and also have more romantic experiences overall, on average. Interchangeable. They view most men as just good enough for now, and they can swap them out at any time. There's a whole nother conversation to be had about how men are still caught up in this idea of the one, while most women have moved on to the idea of their person. The nastiest part of pretentiousness is the inflation of themselves. Women will see a guy who is 6 to 8 inches taller than her, then throw on some 5-inch heels and say, oh, we're basically the same height. I need somebody taller. Just one example, but for every instance, they can artificially inflate themselves above any man. One thing men don't realize is that women are very aware of physical appearance. Some would even call it shallow. They talk about a desire for emotional intelligence, being smart, communicating, and all that nice jazz, but for the most part, that's just word salad. They don't really care about that stuff. But overall, the main difference between entitlement and pretentiousness is entitlement means you think you deserve the best for no reason. Pretentiousness means you think you're the best for no reason. Having a fat ass is a personality. Being pretty is a personality. Traveling is a personality. Having a WAP is a personality. Dancing on TikTok is a personality. Staring at the camera on live is a personality. It's not just about the makeup, the filters, the cosmetic surgeries, the dating apps, the hooking up with guys above their level, or women lying to each other. It's the fact a lot of men are desperate and treating normal women like highly sought commodities. A chick will brag about the dude who drove 4 hours to see her and didn't get to hit. or the guy that sent $300 just for a conversation, and she didn't do anything besides give one-word answers. They're laughing at dudes out here. For real. It's just all bad. All right, so the final aspect of this conversation is the idea of equality. Modern women, being that many of them have adopted a sort of competitive mindset with men, tend to be extremely cognizant of their level compared to yours. Your degree or education level in relation to hers. Your level of physical or general attractiveness in relation to hers. Your income compared to hers. Such things like that. And that's how they come up with a formula to say, I deserve better. If these things are relatively equal, or she perceives them as equal, they will automatically believe they're better than you, or that they're contributing more, especially when they mix in that little component of giving you sexual access. I'm a woman, therefore I have more options, therefore I'm worth more than you, therefore I'm the prize. This is kind of the way they think. And that's why settling means something very different for men versus women. Settling for women means they got a guy who wasn't tall enough, handsome enough, desirable enough, doesn't make enough money, not the right title or the right status, wasn't smooth enough, not handy enough. It's a tricky dilemma for them. As I talked about much earlier, sure, they'll still date and have relationships with men who are their equals or guys who are just less desirable in general. And sure, they may be delusional, but they understand that there are only so many top tier guys to go around. At least some of them do. So they'll get a man and date him, but he has to compensate her at some point, right? He has to give her lots of attention. He has to worship her. He has to be her fan. He has to be committed no matter what. If she complains, you better fix it, solve it, or pay for the problem. Why? Because plenty of other guys want your spot. That's just the way they see it. Like, how many of y'all heard that before? The more they talk and the more you observe, you start to realize something. Modern women don't really want to be equal with a man. They either want better or they want an equal, quote unquote, that they can control, manipulate, dictate, or have carry a larger load most of the time. Almost like having an extension of herself. Seeking equality is like a subtle form of negotiating. The equality is just them hedging their bet against you in the sense of, I got a job, you can't tell me nothing type of way. It's one thing to look on paper and say we're equal, you know, I got this and he got this. I got that, and he got that. It's another thing within the actual relationship dynamic where women claim they want to be led by a man, but only in the way that she wants him to. It doesn't mean she's going to listen to him, but they still want that masculine and feminine polarity innately. I think the harsh truth is women, even if they have the right resume, still don't want to be leaders in relationships because it's difficult for them to manage their need to control a man. Think about it. Modern women will be like, we're equals. Men and women should make the same amount. Also women, my man needs to make more than me. A man should pay all the bills. Why should I have to initiate or plan things? A man should pay for all the vacations and all the restaurants, or at least most of them. If a man makes more money, he needs to do more for her. She makes more money, I don't need you. That's just the way it is a lot of cases. First it's we need to share the load, then it's he needs to take my mental load and my emotional load and the domestic load and all the manual labor. If he loves me, he'll do it. That's what equal is, right? They see equality in a very, very funny way. It's all a scam. The smartest thing women ever did was convince men that they were fair and reasonable. Well played. So, how do you fix this? Well, you don't. This is just the way it is. The only way you fix it is by taking advantage of it. Women are doing pretty well by prioritizing themselves, so maybe you can learn a thing or two from them. So just to summarize things, the traditional woman has mostly gone extinct, or has at least become a misnomer in 2025. The combination of entitlement, selfishness, and pretentiousness are as common as ever, but they have been masked and remixed and redefined and reinterpreted as positive traits due to womanism and the overall state of pop culture. So if you don't learn to be comfortable with yourself, you might end up desperate in your pursuit of someone who's going to drag you down. Because the truth is, the downfall of so many men have come from the women they tied themselves to. At the end of the day, most of these women are great to look at, spend time with, have fun with, and enjoy the company of, but everything else is a wild card.